Zaffar, why don't you start by giving a quick introduction?
Hello, everyone, and it's a pleasure sitting besides all of you veterans here and talking about network APIs. My name is Zaffar. I'm the founder and CEO of Almuqeet Systems. We are primarily into platforms from CPaaS now to network APIs.
Yeah, hi, this is Zoomkhawala from Reliance Jio. I head the messaging and network API business. I'm glad my boss is not here because Chris mentioned the 25% CAGR. I don't want those kind of targets. So, thanks, Chris. Yeah.
Hi everyone, Nayan this side. I take care of digital platform business at Telin. That includes digital marketplace for voice SMS virtual numbers, plus our CPaaS platform, New Epics, and the hot topic network API. So we'll soon start having our own platform for network API.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kunal here from GTS. I work largely under the products, pre-sales, service delivery side of it. Network API being the new product within our kitty, and very excited to have a discussion around this today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Globe, for having me. My name is Kedar Gupte. I'm a telecom fan, I'd say, for the last 25 years, and I continue to learn as an enthusiast. The panel is great, it's a great subject, so I thought, let's participate and give my 2 bits on the new world of telco to techco.
Thank you, Kedar, and thank you for coming all the way, and all of you. So starting with the end, Kedar, what has fundamentally changed in the last 12 to 18 months that makes large-scale commercialization of network APIs viable today? What recent shifts in the messaging traffic or use cases have surprised you in the last 1 year?
Hello. So Chris, thanks for the question. I think there are 2 parts to it. One is fundamental shifts for making APIs more relevant, and then how does it impact the messaging world? I think, look, for telcos who've had a keen eye for the future, we've heard the narrative from various leaders, telco to techco. So basically, going from passive networks to active platforms. And for the large part of the MNO world, they're very clearly now divided into how to reshape the business as platform business, right? The more digital we get, the more proactive we need to become. In the old world, we could resort to passive signaling to be able to make decisions for a network. A lot of the audience here, I see Shikha, Vivek, etc., they'll agree with me. Let's say, for example, roaming. You have to keep doing ping-pongs, and it's riddled with a lot of friction to be able to take whether onboarding decisions or whether taking steering calls or whether detecting fraud. Now, the more digital you become, you cannot afford to be reactive. You have to be proactive. That's where the relevance of APIs, where you infuse intelligence real time. And more relevant today, I mean, not just 18 months ago, because technology is growing at a phenomenal rate. So APIs as endpoints is what was 18 months back. But today, it's APIs as context. So when you spoke of Kamara or the Open GSMA, that's more about how of the API. Circa November 2025, MCP, that is the where and why of the API world. Now, how does it impact messaging? Look, again, messaging traditionally has been used at one side to authenticate, on the second side to promote or market one's product. On authentication, it still is full of friction, right? You see an OTP code, you got to punch in 6 digits. With the new API world, it's agnostic to the user. And with the digital world that we live in, where cloning, SIM swapping, phishing, etc. happens, it is better to be real-time than to be near real-time. So that's the one impact on the APIs on messaging authentication business. On marketing, APIs can be used to create more context, more relevance. For example, if a particular IoT device needs to be tracked, it is better to kind of go closest to the edge. And that's the whole concept of edge computing, right? Latency, bandwidth on demand, etc. So a lot of marrying has to happen between what is available as technology and how we can make messaging more contextual, more conversational. I hope that answers your question.
Excellent. Yes, it does. Relevant and secure. Two takeaways. I'm going to go in random order. Ali, coming to you. Could you share your views on the current industry trends around network API offerings? Do you feel the industry is transitioning from API trials to scalable commercial deployments now?
So Chris, we started work on the network APIs about 3.5 years back, and from those days when we used to speak to a lot of our partners, and most partners had a huge amount of stake in the SMS business, not really looking at the network API side. That all has changed a little. Now people talk about that. In the past, we only had companies like Secura and Bureau and all talking about network APIs and a few other partners. But now you see more partners are talking about network APIs. I think even today, it would be wrong to say that we are at a level where POCs are done and we can scale big time. I think enterprises today also are struggling to figure out what all they can use. The few banks that we have spoken to in the past, they know there is a certain amount of fraud that's happening. They're not able to pinpoint the fraud, why is it happening? So if I have a SIMSOP solution, they're not able to figure out whether this solution will solve their problem. How do they build the ROI? How do they build the business case? Because someone has to sell this internally as well, right? That we want to now add a commercial component, right? There is going to be a payout, and we will save fraud. So they don't have that figure right now. But definitely what has happened in the last few years, I've seen one, obviously, there's been a lot of awareness that's been created. I mean, I know for a fact that MWC has been talking about network APIs for the last couple of years. In all the capacity events now where we were only discussing voice or SMS, now there's a lot of discussion happening on network APIs. So the awareness within the industry also has grown, and that obviously the enterprises also have realized that there are now options that they can look at. The other thing that has happened is that we have been discussing with NPCI in India for a very long time on an authentication device binding application, an API, and we have seen great success there. I mean, obviously it's still in the POC stage, but now that API is already approved by them, and they have now started telling banks to go and start meeting us. Internally within, if you take only specific India, even within India, now between the three telcos, we also have, sort of aligned ourselves. So between Airtel, Jio and Vodafone, we constantly interact, we speak to one another. We share information on pricing, on the APIs we want to work with, the partners we want to work with. So at least in the bargain, we will see that the industry grows. But at this point of time to say that we are ready for scale, I think still some time to go.
So lots of awareness, lots of learning, but the scalability traction still has to come up. Great. Nayan, Telin has made a strategic partnership with IPification. This gives you a huge reach and coverage. You also have a partnership now with Meta for the Telecom cell and dialogue network. What do you see as Telin's strategy and GTM go-to-market for growth in 26-27?
Thank you. Thanks for having me here, first of all. And as you rightly said that, I would just agree with what everyone else is saying. It was initially a buzzword, right? But we are seeing some traction in terms of having real use cases about network API. So this year, definitely our focus is there on network API, primarily the mobile number verification use case, where we see the maximum or the highest traction in the market. And the other thing, Telecom Cell, which is our sister company, so they were also part of the GSMA Open Gateway initiative, wherein they were one of the champions in Southeast Asia region. So that's where they started deploying these network API solutions, and we are already live with Meta, as you rightly said, for Telecom Cell and also for Dialog. And through our partnership with Ibification, we have a reach of 50 plus MNOs for IP-based mobile number verification and 10 plus TS43 based mobile number verification. So that's how it is. And as I'm hearing from fellow panelists, partnership is also one of the keys because there are different areas as to how we look at it. Southbound, where we have MNO network, MNOs want to expose their network capabilities to enterprises and developers. So enterprises, developers reside on the northbound side, wherein they are the real consumers. They do face some of the challenges in terms of, let's say, traditional way of authenticating the user through SMS, OTP. We see the delay in delivery or failed delivery of SMS OTP. Shikha took one of the examples I am facing. I am on the receiving end, wherein I am facing the issue in terms of registering myself or authenticating myself on Fast Track Immigration website. I've been trying for 6 months. It's not happening. There is no solution. I can't go and complain to anyone. But when I complain to her, she's like, the provider that particular, ministry is using can't really ensure. So that's where it is going, and we have a clear strategy and go-to-market strategy this year to focus on network API, mainly mobile number verification, through the partnership with Ibification.
Excellent. All the best for the strategy in the year ahead, and hope to. You said partnership? Sure. We'll talk after this about partnership. So, Kunal, global initiatives like Kamara and a lot of work done by GSMA to create a truly interoperable platform and a whole ecosystem, do you see them becoming a de facto standard, or do you think that we would see more regional API platforms emerging alongside?
Thank you, Chris, for this question. I think with all the work that is going around with the GSMA Open Gateway and the Kamara, of course is positioned at the moment to become a de facto standard when it comes to the APIs which they have certified. But we cannot eliminate the fact that almost all the telcos are using or have their own APIs regionally. Okay, they have been using it in some way or the form. So Kamara would replace regional APIs? I don't think so. So I think this ecosystem would evolve into being a multi-layered kind of a structure where both Kamara and the local API would coexist.
I think, yeah, makes sense that both will go. Yeah, Ali, please.
So I think what Kunal mentioned is absolutely correct. Obviously, Kamara compliance, any standardization for that matter will help you scale. So in that sense, obviously, and Kamara driven by GSMA will be very useful for scale at a global level. But regional play is always going to be very different. I mean, the banks that we have spoken to, nobody talks about Kamara compliance. They have a problem statement. They want a solution. If you can provide that solution, it solves the problem, right? Plus, beyond that, in India specifically, we are, all the telcos are in talks with DOT for a KYC API that's non-Kamara compliant. The API I spoke about, which is with NPCI, is non-Kamara compliant. Already tried and tested and approved by the InfoSec teams of the relevant authorities. So if that solves the real world problem for the enterprise in India, I don't think that's a Kamara compliance is going to be a deal breaker there in that sense. So he correctly said, I think, while Kamara, will obviously help us scale, the regional APIs will continue.
Will coexist.
Yeah,
Makes
absolutely.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and furthermore, see, Chris, I think all these telcos, they work in a highly regulated environment wherein there are needs that a telco must integrate with local governing bodies for things like LIM, consent management, all sorts of things. So there would definitely be a multi-layered approach. There would be no global or regional standardization as such.
Absolutely. You can't have one solution across the world for all the mobile operators in the markets. I totally agree with you. So Zaffar, coming to you. Almuqeet Systems is a provider of carrier-grade messaging infrastructure and CPaaS platforms. What work are you doing in network APIs, including, say, number verification, etc.? And how do you see revenues for yourself in 26, 27 in this network API area?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chris. I'll just quickly recap on the early question. So, firstly, the evolution of network APIs, why Kamara, now GSMA, Open Gateway, what have they changed? So if you look at, the industry, telcos on their own have been working on creating, exposing a lot of network components, assets for monetization earlier, but things did not move much. But now with GSMA, there are more than 60 use cases, API use cases, standardized, finalized from the Kamara side, and then receiving a lot of support from the operators who have signed up for the Open Gateway initiative. Right now, we do see a lot of standardization. I mean, there's a shift from that POC level on many cases, from that POC level to exact productization of these use cases. As an example, I mean, we see that the silent authentication is being adapted because, of course, the banks and the regulators wanted to remove the fraud, man-in-the-middle attacks and all of that. And of course, with additional inputs from the SIM swap side, I mean, authenticating users on critical fintech side or any logistical side is getting very much easy. But yes, at this point of time, I also agree that Kamara compliant APIs would be very much beneficial if you look at the global level, right? So earlier we were facing issues with SMS integration or SMS creating a standard global go-to aggregator level platforms for global coverage on SMS. Even right now we are struggling it mostly on RCS. And I think similarly, the Kamara APIs would definitely pave way for a standard telco to telco aggregator level, bridging the gap between creating a plug and play integration with different telcos. And then currently I do see that there are multiple use cases. In fact, maybe KYC verification, age verification, locations, silent authentication, 5-6 use cases which are very commercially viable. From last 1 year, we have been working on, at Almuqeet, we have been trying to bridge this particular gap by creating a single hub to connect multiple operators using the Kamara compliant APIs, GSMA compliant APIs, and then offering them to our customers who are actually aggregators. We must understand that, we are now trying to move from CPaaS to something called advanced CPaaS, right? So we already have the customers, we already have the aggregators, service providers who are already connected to enterprises. And as Mr. Ali rightly said, that we need to present these use cases, present these revenue opportunities for all of us. The 25% CAGR needs to be converted into, that needs to be capitalized. Yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
Lovely, thank you. So, well, ultimately, every telco wants to make money out of this, and that's what you're also saying. So, Kedar, coming to you, what are the likely monetization models that could apply for network API? It was mentioned even earlier when Shikha said, oh, we can fix the commercial model. I hope, Shikha, you're very right on that. But do you think it would be usage-based, subscription-based, transaction-based, or outcome-driven? What's the viable commercial model for network APIs?
Look, all of the above, as you said. And Shikha is right. Look, telecom product managers are typically experts at commercial modeling. I mean, if you really look at the consumer enterprise segments of telephony, what they do is, they don't come up with new technology, new protocol, but they know how to distribute what is made available to them. So whether it is outcome-based, whether it is success-based, whether it is transaction-based, all of these, depending on what fits the bill, can be used to sell APIs. But more importantly, Chris, Ali spoke of something, Kunal spoke of something. Look, there's Mark here, there is Sumesh here. All of these guys have been in the API industry, Secura, IPification, Utopia. And APIs have been existing for the last 4 years now, 5 years now. It is a few $1 million business. But to scale it to the next level, to Zaffar's point, you will need to standardize. You know, the analogy here is, you could say that I want to internationally roam and I will only work on my own protocol. But if you don't follow TAP, you can't roam, right? You will have to have some standardization for all operators to be able to talk the same language. And more importantly, it is important that when you start to look at it from the point of view of, do you want a developer to hard code your API? And the developer may not be existent in 2 years' time. And when an agent comes in, then you need the tool, the prompt, the response. Then the developer doesn't say, steer Shikha's roaming phone to Vodafone. Her agent says, give Shikha 2 milliseconds delay. Whether you use Vodafone or you use Telefonica, I don't care. Because everybody will become preferred. There'll be no forbidden in our world, right? So I think standardization will play a very, very critical part in the way APIs are commercialized. And then modeling all of the stuff that you said is how they will be modeled, depending on who the customer is.
So standardization is key, and this leads me to a little bit of a controversial question then, and Ali, I'll put it to you. How critical is true interoperability among operators for network API to succeed globally? Are we closer to interoperability, or is just a very far vision right now?
So right now in India, at least, we are not interconnected. I think the work at this point of time is, probably the scale is pretty small, the revenues are pretty limited, so we have not even looked at that. But yes, that is at some stage we'll have to get into that and have an interconnectivity between operators as well. At this point of time, no, we are not connected.
Yeah. But you think it's an important step for growth in the industry?
But at this point of time, in any case, most of the, so what we have done in India at least is that between the operators, we have identified partners that we work with. So all of us work with the same partner, and that partner will then, obviously, consume the APIs through the developers there. So at least it solves the, the issue.
Zaffar, would you like to comment on this?
Of course. I hope that the telcos leave it for the aggregators. So, yeah, as Mr. Ali rightly said, yes, I mean, I think telcos have a lot of homework to do right now in order to, enable those additional APIs converting to that particular figure in the revenues. So, yes, of course, it is very important for interoperability, because as an enterprise, I would not want to connect to 10 different other telcos for the numbers. Even for that matter, if you're talking about the regional level in India as well. Although we do have 2 or 3 major players here, but eventually the enterprises have subscribers from Middle East, and there are a lot of people from India who live outside, and then the integration with them needs to be there. That's, I think, wherein the role of Kamara should be underscored. Because the APIs have almost, been finalized, stabilized for most of these use cases, and I think we will see that. I hope that we will see the Kamara standard adoption among all these aggregators, and in fact in the entire ecosystem.
Thanks, Nayan, and I heard the bell. Nayan, from your vantage point, what do you see as the essentials that are needed for your API business growth? What are the enablers that will help tremendously grow your revenues in the next few years?
Yeah. So first of all, as Zaffar mentioned, that enterprises, they need, they don't want to integrate by operator to operator, right? They need a platform which will enable them to, use it for multiple countries at the same time, or for multiple operators. So you definitely need that sort of a platform which the enterprises and developers can use. And of course, the partnership, as I mentioned, or maybe the interoperability between the MNOs. So that's one of the keys. And for an enterprise, take it this way, because there are multiple communication channels available currently. We have SMS, traditional SMS, we have WhatsApp, RCS, now network API is the 4th one, right? So how can we make it convenient for the enterprises to let them choose which is the best option for them. Let's say for marketing, WhatsApp may serve them better, right? For utility, RCS may serve them better. For authentication, network API will be much better than traditional OTP, right? So this is the way in which anyone or like Telin, we would like to focus on creating or enabling the enterprises and developers with a platform to help them choose whichever the best channel for them.
Okay, so convenience, ease of use for the end customer, makes sense. Kunal, just now even Zaffar talked about aggregator and their role. Aggregator platforms are becoming key in connecting multiple operators and enterprise developers. From GTS's perspective, how can aggregators help accelerate the adoption of network APIs while ensuring revenue models for the operator also?
Right. I think an aggregation platform would be the key enabler in achieving the vision of Kamara as a whole. That is a single touch point for an enterprise, getting the coverage of all the operators that are offering the Kamara compliant APIs, let's say. However, we must not. We must also consider the fact that many of these enterprises would end up consuming these APIs through other channels like CPaaS, marketplaces, and other areas of their touch point.
Thanks, Kunal. So, keeping time in mind, I have one last question which is open to all. It's more future gazing. 2 to 3 years from now, that's the future that we can gaze, not more than that. What does a fully API-enabled telco look like? And what operator capabilities do you expect to see productized that are not available today? Anyone?
Well, yeah, I mean, we are excited about the future, of course. So, I mean, looking ahead 2 or 3 years, I would see that the operators, if we talk about the operators' perspective, I mean, I don't see them offering any more bandwidth as their entire offering. I think they'll move beyond bandwidth. They will move towards something probably dynamic networks, slicing, giving some sort of a private network or their own 5Gs, I mean, everything driven by the network APIs. And apart from that, of course, in the very near future, for all of us in the ecosystem, I would see a lot of additional revenue streams. I mean, we're already taking care of the conversations, the engagement through a lot of CPaaS channels, as Mr. Kunal said earlier. And of course, for the authentication, moving it on a more secured level. But I do see if we rightly go in the right direction with the telcos enabling KYC kind of things. I mean, I do see enterprises requiring a lot of information, even if it's a lead form verification, like just a number verification in terms of lead, and then at times you need to have location verification when making a transaction. So I do see a lot of additional revenues coming in from new use cases, from enterprises, from logistics, from fintech, and all of them. And then, of course, maybe with the network APIs offering more control for developers. So I do see a lot of network as a service sort of an architecture coming in and offerings in future.
So frankly, if I sit here and say I'm an expert and I can predict what will happen next 3 years, is very difficult. The last 3 years we predicted a lot of things, nothing happened. So it's very difficult to say this, but frankly we've been working on this for a while and we believe there's huge potential. I mean, there are definitely huge amount of fraud cases that are happening, SIM swap, age on network, KYC, and all these things put together should contribute a large part of the B2B revenue for telcos. We see that this will probably at some stage in the next 3 years be a relevant revenue stream for the telcos. The fact that even the regulators are involved in this with DOT working on a KYC match API and stuff like that, we are, it sort of reconfirms that we are on the right path, and probably in the next 3 years we should see this scale up big time.
Just one thing to add, it requires a mindset shift, as we all discussed, and also in the previous panel, from becoming like normal CPaaS to advanced CPaaS with so many communication channels. So definitely exciting times ahead. Yeah.
I see it as an enterprise belonging from any domain expresses a business intent to the network and expects a outcome. Now that particular network would be programmable to such an extent that it would be able to fetch the core network attributes in a way that enterprise expects and translates into business. So that's the way I'm seeing it.
Thanks so much, panelists. I think I echo all that you say. In my view, India context, because it's MEF India, 3 years down the line. See, India, if you look at the telco space, that's where I spent most of my career. Gaming is low in India. Gaming needs bandwidth, priority. When congestion happens, you need to, that's where APIs play their part. Roaming, we all know, riddled with friction, lots of manual labor, ABCD testing, etc. Again, network as a service, as Zaffar you called out, can play its part in easing out how international roaming has traditionally operated, okay? Third thing, fraud. More digital means you will need to be real time. So whether it's phone number verification, SIM swap, KYC, etc. Recent AI summit, they announced Doot as a part of Project Nanda, where every Indian will have a messenger. And I think, again, that Doot can only perform its part if it's able to read APIs and then action it. That's how I see 3 years. But I certainly see APIs will not be request response. APIs will be intent action. It will be API as a context and not API as a request. That's how I see it in 3 years' time.
So to conclude, I think everybody is saying challenges of commercial, challenges of scaling up, but lots of opportunities, different use cases, and everybody is banking on this for the next 2 years. So, inshallah, let's make good business out of this in the next few years. All the best. Thank you.